Welcome to the show, Mr. DCL Blogger, aka Maddie. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been talking for many months, and you are one of the crypto OGs pioneering this NFT mania. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure.
So Maddie is a newborn father. Congratulations on your kid. He's taken some time to be with us. So thank you so much for taking the time out. I know that it is super hard to get away in these early months, but we're really, really
All
excited
good.
because there is so much information that people need about NFTs right now. And the market for NFTs has never been more exciting. And so people really need to know just what's going on with NFTs, and I could think of very
hmm
few people better to answer that question than you. So can you explain maybe a little
Thank you.
bit about your history, how you got into NFTs, and what the heck is going on right now?
Yeah, awesome. Again, a pleasure to be here and talk about NFTs. It's one of the topics that I can just talk nonstop about, and I'm sure you as well, Elliot, have dived quite deep, and it's just a lot of fun to just be part of. But I started in 2018, Jan, kind of off the tail of the 2017 crypto kind of bear market that was starting. Out of curiosity and also, I guess, necessity of trying to find other places to diversify into, when you see a portfolio crashing down a little bit, you start to think, what else can you do, right? 2017 is when I entered the crypto market, so for me, this whole space was new, and and then I remember finding Decentraland, which was a place where you could buy and sell virtual land on blockchain somehow. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here, right? Back then, I didn't know what NFTs were. I didn't even know this land was an ERC 721 token. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that there's more to do than buy tokens like cryptocurrencies. So I bought my first land for a couple $100 after negotiating really hard. And I found the negotiating part really fun because the Indian in me is just used to, negotiating and hustling a little bit with prices. And I bought a couple of lands for a couple $100 each, and then the next day or the next week, I remember getting offered pretty much double the price, and I was like, "Oh, wait, this is an interesting thing going on here, right? We can use our skill set to negotiate on prices, buy NFTs that have different quality aspects. In this case, there were coordinates that were less or more desirable based on where you bought your land in Decentraland. Um, and then you could negotiate a good price, a good entry price, and you could sell it for someone who buys it for more expensive because they find value in it. And it's the beauty about NFTs. Each item is unique, so different people have different value, metrics for each one. And you could stack your crypto without putting more fiat in. And for me, that was a huge deal, right? I know day trading is a similar kind of concept where you stack your crypto and then you double compound when the crypto markets go up. But day trading to me is just something I just couldn't really get into. But NFTs really hit the mark. So I kind of stayed in the space, kept trading land, and a year or two later, it evolved into art and collectibles and all these sort of things. All the collectibles was first, but it evolved into all these things, and now it's just like exploded into a space where, you can get involved with pretty much any sort of creative skill set.
Yeah, so I find that fascinating. First of all, getting in so early to NFTs, and from my perspective, there's very few real sources of information on NFTs, which is one of the big
hmm
challenges I feel like for the NFT industry right now. Is no one knows where to go for information. Now, I've been including it in almost every single segment now for a few months, and previously it had been sort of in specific segments here and there. But I'm becoming really excited because it's so clear now more than ever that there's a ton of opportunity in trading, compounding, using your NFTs to, if at the very least, just get more Ethereum, if that's what you really believe in.
hmm
I know I'm a
hmm
big believer in Ethereum. So, could you talk a little bit about what the shift has been, and like from when you started to even, I guess, like the February wave to now, because it feels like things are very, very different than February.
hmm
And February was obviously very, very different than, 18 and 19. What's happening right now? And what do you think are the shifts that are most important that have happened?
I think the biggest thing was that in 2018, it was a lot of experimental stuff was happening. We didn't really understand the economic side of things. You had projects that were being released where the supply was uncapped and there was too much supply coming in that didn't meet the demand. And companies, dealing with the hurdles of needing a MetaMask to sign in, the crypto niche, the people of, the number of people in crypto had faded away. Prices went down like 95%, right? Which was indicative of the amount of people that had left the scene. And so although products were being built for the space, there wasn't that many people in the space, and the market wasn't the gamers, it was more the investors and crypto traders and all this sort of thing. It was kind of like trying to figure out the whole space. And I kind of felt that 2018 was a lot of that vibe. And they say that 2018 was the most bearish market for NFTs, just because there was a lot of uncertainty. Some projects were doing okay, some were like kind of throwing in the towel, some kept building. The art kind of scene started slowly in 2018 as well. So there's a lot of experiments, a lot of people in their own little niches. I was in my Decentraland bubble. You had the Axie Infinity guys slowly building and playing that game. You had the art people slowly accumulating art and finding that space. Collectible people experimenting with crypto kitties and crypto punks. Now I found in 2019 to 2020, especially 2020, is where a lot of us kind of expanded in different territories. We kind of crossed paths with gay Axies. We kind of crossed paths with art. And a lot of us started to diversify into different niches, realizing that the space is much, much bigger. And in line with 2020 was a lot of people figuring out how to use MetaMask because of DeFi. DeFi kind of opened the doors to our first expansion of the niche, which was the broader crypto crowd. So it went from just like, a handful of NFT people to NFT people plus crypto native people that knew how to use MetaMask just because they needed it to, engage in DeFi protocols. And then it kind of blew up into a lot of people trying to figure out what the heck's going on in NFTs, because we started to make some decent sales that were over the $100,000 mark. And I think now it's kind of evolved, or since February, there was a lot of people also coming into the space. This time it kind of expanded beyond the crypto niche to a lot of normies. So a lot of people from the art world being exposed to what the heck's going on with these art sales, crypto punks, what's going on there. Little bit of gaming kind of penetrating the normal markets, but there was still a lot of curiosity. Now I really feel, so what are we in now? July? In July, I really feel like we are starting to really figure out models that are sustainable, and models that are, there's a lot of people here that have been here for 6 months, that have, made their mistakes, kind of made their money as well. So a lot of people made their money with NBA Top Shot. A lot of people made their money with art. A lot of people made their money with crypto markets. And there's a lot more people that are experimenting financially as well in the NFT space. So you could pretty much release like any, 10,000 avatar project and sell out within a couple of days. It's come to a stage where there's so much experimental money in this space, and people are also trying to, figure out the models. People have figured out that 10,000 generated avatar projects works really well. People have figured out that drops, art drops with certain, not asking for too much to seem to sell out. People are figuring out supply and demand metrics that aren't too skewed towards either which way. People have figured out how to not get MetaMask to pop up all the time, and use Matic or these scaling solutions to, onboard and iron out these kinks to onboard the masses. So I think that there's some products that are trying to release where it has some sort of mass appeal, and we've seen Axie Infinity start to penetrate markets, and this maturity and just understanding the economics really well. But I think that's the situation we're in now. I think in the next 3 to 6 months, it's going to be a massive boom in the gaming projects that we're going to see enter this space. There's going to be a massive boom in just IPs entering the space and experimenting with collectible projects, and less about dropping art and doing these minimal drops and actually coming out with economic models that are core to their business as well. And realizing the space is quite serious and there's a big opportunity here. So I think, we're going to start to reach IP mode, some serious mode, and some really big players coming in and putting some serious money into building some good products.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that what you were just talking about is really interesting to me is, on one side, you're seeing celebrity drops doing, close to nothing. And for the most part, the excitement around sort of external actors doing NFT drops has completely crashed. And then you get this explosion of support and financial productivity, specifically around the 10,000 generative collections. Now, I find there to be something almost like a deeper sort of psychological realization, or maybe it's just economics, that makes these really, really successful. It's, there's something about the using them as your identity. There's something about the tribalism that develops. There's something about the actual trading markets that develop as well. Is this the best format that NFTs have found so far? Is this the one, why are these succeeding so much? And where is the potential? Because I see a lot of sort of untapped potential for these. As much as I see, how could this be so successful? I'm like, well, this could be so much more than a lot of these projects are treating it as.
Yeah, I think it can definitely be a lot more. I think it hits some very core points emotionally and just fundamentally, not so much financially, hits them as well, but just as a person, as a human trying to enter this space, getting something unique that's part of a community, that's fun to open. I think that's a big deal. It's fun to kind of buy something and see what you got, right? Because as you buy it, you buy this kind of placeholder card that turns into a unique avatar once everyone gets released their avatar when it sells out. And that sort of thing is a lot of fun. Kind of reminds me of getting Pokemon cards and opening Pokemon card packets, and then getting a ton of Pokemon cards. I wasn't buying them to sell them. I was buying them to collect them and just have fun and see what I got. So I'm starting to see this 10,000 avatar project from that lens, that it's just a lot of fun to get something and collect and see how it goes. It's also one of those things where I think people, it's a lot of crypto mindset. So crypto mindset, as you know quite well, Elliot, is like trying to catch the next train that is similar to the big train that passed that you missed, right? So the next Uniswap, trying to grab the next like Axie Infinity, trying to jump on the next Dogecoin. That's why you got Shiba Coin and all these hundreds of like coins. The next Bitcoin, you've got all these like Bitcoin killers, you've got all these Ethereum killers. I feel like the 10,000 avatar project is like trying to get the next CryptoPunks, or in this case, the success of Bored Ape Yacht Club or the apes is like trying to get onto the next train that will be like the apes. There's obviously a ton of money in that. And also like there's so many, even though there's a lot of projects coming out, relative to the demand that's in here that want to experiment with NFTs, it's quite little actually, where you've got multiple 10,000 NFT projects coming out. And the fact that they're still on the radar of everyone shows you how small the space is. The fact that 3 or 4 could launch in a day and everyone knows exactly which those 3 and 4 are is actually a really small thing. You want to get to a space stage where you can't keep up with anything. There's just, there's so much space out there. One person can't control the market or bring a ton of people to one market. It's kind of balanced and stuff out there. But I think, it also sells out really quickly because the economics is that, 10,000 avatars, they usually sell them for about 0.04 or 0.08 ETH each, which is about 400 to 800 ETH, which is about 1 to 2 million. Now, that might seem like a lot to fiat, but in terms of crypto, when Ethereum's $2,000 and a lot of the market crypto's gone up quite a lot, it's actually really small. And so it doesn't take that much money to fund the project, but after that to pump the floor prices 5 to 10x, just because it doesn't take much money to push the market prices up. So although demand might sell out, and then you got some increase of prices, you got the floor price going from 0.04 ETH to maybe 0.2 ETH, and suddenly some people have made money that fuel the next one. So there's like so many factors, there's economic factors, there's emotional things that it hits. And I agree with you, it can be so much more. And I think we've seen some attempts where some people have promised a roadmap to roll it out and to get these into the sandbox, to get these into Decentraland, to make games out of these things. And I think they're going to, one of them is going to hit really, really well and just do really good because of all the stuff that it promises.
So so on that note, you hit a couple of things that I wanted to talk about here. The space is tiny. There's a lot of experimental purchasing happening, right? People have made a lot of money in NFTs over the last few months. People have made a lot of money in crypto over the last several months, although everyone got wrecked. The reality is NFTs didn't get wrecked. In fact, they're higher volumes, prices than ever before. So it's really an interesting question right now about, one, what happens when these real mainstream waves come in and people realize how much money's in the space and how much opportunities in the space. Two, and also like, unlike fungible tokens, which are like, hey, we're going to be the future of finance, you know, and it's like, we're going to disrupt the banks. It's like with NFT drops, they're like, we're doing a merch drop, you know, and people go crazy. And it's like, these are like highly achievable, very almost like under promising by about 1000x what you could be doing with this IP, what you could be doing with this ecosystem. What happens when everybody rushes in and it's really, really hard to stand out? I mean, it feels like what's going to happen is you're going to have, punks and apes keep going up and up and up in value, right? They keep going up because those are like the Bitcoin and the Ethereums of the space, right? Then you have, or at least for these 10K projects, but then you have the problem of staying relevant and elevating the bar. And what I think is really missing is aggressive teams with real vision and real utility to the IP, not just like, hey, you can go into a Discord or whatever, but hey, this is the plan for the IP, right? And this is how the IP is going to grow. And I think content is a big missing piece here, whether it's narrative content, whether it's video game content, whether it's physical merchandising content. I feel like there's a lot of missing pieces here that would keep projects relevant and growing. And it becomes kind of like a brand building exercise that you would see that's like more of a consumer product, right? And I think that this is where I get really excited, because you see a bridge between where we are with NFTs, which are still mostly roulette wheels and speculative. But I see the potential for this to be the next hot trend, like digital sneakers that kids need every week to get the coolest one, or that people are all sort of chasing around to stay relevant, just like people are into fashion or going into, getting art or finding the next hot music artist. It's kind of going to be, I feel like that need that brings us together on social media, the reason why people want likes and follows and verified checks, is part of the psychology that could drive this NFT thing way further. But my thing is, once this gets really competitive, a lot of these are going to go to zero and they're not going to have a way to come back because it's too saturated. Now, in that world, who's going to be the winners? It's going to be the people who are producing high quality products with that are counterparts or aligned somehow with the NFTs. What do you think about that? And do you think that I see it both as being healthy and very unhealthy for this popularity to come in, because a lot of people are going to get wrecked. But at the same time, you're going to see, I think, crypto move to the masses in a very, very fun and kind of toy-like package. You're going to see these NFTs come and invade sort of popular culture. That's kind of my feeling about it.
I am absolutely in line with that sort of thinking. I think what happens is IPs really start to stand out. As you said, you kind of get something like Axie Infinity, right? Axie Infinity, how do you compete with a blockchain game that's hitting the nail on the head economically and now has such a strong IP that's recognized quite well? I mean, we've had some esports teams retweet them, really popular #1 esports teams retweet them, play them, and understand what's going on here. And, I'm not sure how much into the story they've kind of explored. Is there much lore to the Axie project? I think there's a bit of that, but mostly it's just become like, it's just economically done really well. But I totally agree with you that there will be a lot of, I guess, bag holders or people that have investments that don't really do too well, or they can't really do much with, because the shift will be in valuing those that are here and are serious. And that will really start to stand out soon, where, they build this whole universe around their project. They build this whole story, this whole community, the lore, the connection, the human connection between why you're here, the ongoing sustainable way to stay relevant. Because I think one issue with these 10,000 avatar projects, although I actually am starting to love them quite a lot because it is a lot of fun to be part of.
It's super fun.
I think one issue, it's so fun.
It's partly degenerate, but it's also like, I love the art, right? And so like there is an intrinsic value to just having them, right? Whereas I was going to tweet something to this effect, which is I've never smiled while buying an altcoin. I don't think I've ever been on Uniswap like,
so true, dude.
Yes, wow.
I know.
But here I'm like laughing. I'm like, yeah, $5,000 for this duck. Let's do it, you know? And so I don't know why. Maybe I'm just blinded by the situation, but I enjoy thoroughly the experience of buying these NFTs. And so I guess it's one of those things where, you know, I look at, obviously I'm obsessed with gaming. Everyone on my channel knows that I'm obsessed with gaming. When people buy an item in a game, that's already a free game. Well, then there has to be intrinsic value to that, because otherwise, why are you buying something that's free? You're buying it because you value that feeling of having the character. And so I think that there is an element there where you just don't get that in normal crypto. And so at a certain point, you have to break from altcoin comparisons, because there's no intrinsic value from most altcoins but to go up in value. And so if it goes down sad, goes up happy. But there's something like very big happening.
There's a very strong like DGen crowd in crypto, as we all know, right? We always love to chase the next like 100x shitcoin that might look really good, might do well, who knows? But if we lose our money, we lose our money. There's a strong nature of that, I feel like, in all of us in this space. So there's NFTs, these 10,000 avatar projects. Some of them start to feel a bit like that, where you're kind of just chasing the potential for this to be something. But at the end of the day, like you said, you know, the collectible factor, the fun of it, the thrill of it, you know, 2 years from now, you may look back at all the different avatar projects that you bought into, and maybe they might mean something, because once there's hundreds of these launching every day, maybe, or every month, they may look quite scarce, and some of them might stand out and become winners. Who knows? Some of them might actually roll out a big roadmap.
Yeah.
And the nature of NFTs, which is really interesting, is that someone can always take an abandoned IP, an abandoned project, and bring it to light and build a whole interoperable universe with it, lead it, and then suddenly, you know, those have value again.
But why would they? Why wouldn't they just build it on their own IP?
Because they could just grab like 1,000 or 2,000 of them really cheap on the market, and then suddenly they're incentivized to do so.
They could just invent a new comic, right? They could invent a new character, and then it's kind of
they
like
could.
That's where like I'm wondering
but then
whether
be the founding team.
Well, I'm just wondering if you have the skills to build this interoperable metaverse, you probably have the skills to launch, you know, the base layer of IP as well, which I find to be, you know, easier to launch the IP than to build out the infra, you know. So I don't know. I'm just wondering like why. Look, I hope it's true. I wanted to ask you. Yeah, go ahead, finish your thought, and then I have another question to ask you.
It's kind of like this pickles thing, right? So 10,000 pickles.
Yeah.
They came out, they made a bang. They kind of probably disappeared by now, but someone could probably go buy 1,000 of them really cheap on the market. Some big influencer with like 80,000 followers and say, yo, I'm building this fun I'm going to build a great conference in Decentraland branded about the pickle stuff. You bring your pickles in, they all turn into pickles. We have some fun. And suddenly they have value because you keep them relevant. You may not have the skills to build the infrastructure, but you might have the skills to pay someone $5,000 to build a headquarter in DCL that has the integration to turn your pickles into a pickle character. So maybe that's the case. It's never happened before. My mind says it might happen. But you're right. It'll
Hope
probably
springs
just
eternal.
Yeah, who knows?
Are you down bad on your pickles, Maddie? Is that what you're saying? No,
I don't have any pickles.
I'm just kidding.
I don't have any pickles.
I actually know the pickles team, but that's another story. Yeah, I know who they are. I mean, I know at least who their avatars are.
Do you know much of the founders in these 10,000 avatar projects? Or are they all anons to you as well?
So I've been doing my best to meet as many people as I could. And I made it very public about 2-3 weeks ago that I was fascinated by what was going on. Maybe a month and a half ago now, actually time flies in crypto land. But yeah, so I started meeting everyone I could and gathering as much information as I could because I was fascinated by the format being so sticky. And I was also fascinated by the lack of, I don't know, I don't want to speak negatively, but I just was fascinated by the lack of ideas because you see, like in crypto, you see people aggressively pushing to these crazy, very almost hard to imagine types of goals, you know, and that's where you get the over-promising that you see with the fungible tokens. Whereas you don't see almost any promising going on with these avatars, but it feels like that's kind of something that, hey, look, these things are making crazy money, usually literally on par with some token raises. And so why isn't there a similarly ambitious goal set if I was a buyer? And I think right now it goes back to the community of NFTs isn't caring about sort of tech promises right now. They actually really just care about the art and the collections, which is crazy and amazing. And it provides a lot of sort of base level utility of people liking these assets. Now, when I started fanning out my wings, I got some amazingly talented folks. One example is this insane art studio that does physical toys. So they're going to allow for physical hand-painted toys, ongoing collections, and they have all these really cool sort of ways. They have a really creative burn mechanism that is deflationary, but also not deflationary. I thought the whole thing was great because you don't want to deflate too many of your items if it's 10K, because then you run out of community members. So it's sort of like there's sort of all these interesting sort of little innovations on tokenomics, little innovations on structure. But then there's also what I think of as how do you connect this with ongoing, content and culture. And so I had another project founder came to me, and they're actually a really famous animator, has worked on a bunch of household name shows, some of the biggest animations in the world. Nice. Wanted to do one of these as a basis for a series. And I was like, that's awesome, right? Because if I could see these characters in a series, now I have ongoing connection to this world, right? Gives it value with the content, right? And so now every time episodes or seasons come out, I have a reason why I want these assets again, instead of it just fizzling. Thinking to the future of like when there's 100 projects coming out a day, right? Like how does one stand out now? And it's, to me is differentiators on tech, product, whether it's physical product, content, and I'm also working with a bunch of really, really insanely talented musicians on doing some stuff in the space as well. And so I see all of the ones that I have invested into on the back end as trying to push that boundary to be more. And I'm really excited for that. I'm wondering what you think of the 10K avatar format. Is this a medium where it's going to continue to get experimented with and grown, or is this just a flash in the pan? It's all going to collapse.
I think it's just do you mean the concept as a whole is going to get experimented on? I think the format. I was thinking this the other day, whether it's always going to be relevant or it's going to just be a phase of where we are at the moment. And I actually think the 10,000 avatar thing might always be a thing, just because of the fun of it and the fact that CryptoPunks kind of set the precedence, and the 10,000 number is kind of like a perfect number to kind of get something going off. I think it'll always be a thing, but we may see different formats of it where, we went from 10,000 avatars that don't do anything to 10,000 avatars that maybe have a metaverse present to 10,000 avatars that have a roadmap that some of them are trying to roll out. And who knows, we may see like gaming projects that release with the 10,000 avatar format, or even big brand IPs may come in, maybe who knows, but Marvel might come in and do like a 10,000 avatar project sort of a thing. So we may see like this start to take to the next level, not in terms of IP, but more in terms of just what things can be done. There definitely is a movement in utility, more of a movement in exploring utility. I feel like the February NFT space to now where we're at, it's kind of like, well, what can you do with this? What plans do people have with dropping these avatar projects? And that matters. And I like to see that. And I think we're going to keep expanding.
So here we are, July 2021. If I am a total noob to NFTs, I don't know anything. I've just heard about these avatars and JPEGs. JPEGs go up only. That's all I've been hearing. And people are, as my tweet earlier said, cash poor but duck rich. How do I get involved, right? And how would you start? Because I remember last time you were talking about getting involved with Axies last time we chatted, which, by the way, if you would have, you'd be filthy rich right now, because the floor on original Axie mystics have gone up like 8x or 10x since then.
It's crazy.
Super crazy. And they were already super high. How do you get involved if you're a newbie? And what would you say to the new investors or speculators or wannabe participants?
I think NFTs is one of those space that evolves really quickly, and it's kind of like rebuilding the real world in a digital format. The real world, we have people that collect unique cars, people that collect cards, people that collect games, people that collect all sorts of things, right? So, do you as a person, do people in the real world keep up with all of those things? Probably not. They probably have their niche, which they explore and know very well if they do collect. And I think in the NFT space, we're seeing these offshoots. People doing NBA Top Shots, sports collectible being a thing. Uh, you know, avatar projects being a thing, gaming projects being a thing. I think it starts with a lot of research and just kind of go out there and see what you get. Just find and read some videos, watch some videos, and things will start to click. But I feel like the most important and crucial learning just happens when you spend some money in the market. And you might not make money at the start. You probably won't. It's probably good to have some burn money and accept that you probably won't see that back. But
Tuition.
experimenting and yeah, training that intuition, right?
Oh no, tuition, like college tuition. They're paying for they're paying for their education.
Exactly. Like how often, like in university, I know I came out with an engineering degree with like a $30,000 debt, right? But here, if you spend $30,000, man, I think you'd learn a ton of money, like $30,000 over 2, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. But I think if you spend like $1,000, $500, $1,000, maybe a couple of $1,000 experimenting with an avatar project, art, a game item, when you buy these things, you automatically get plugged in, whether you want to or not, into the economics, into the Discord. You are now vested financially and emotionally into what's going on. You will track the sales history. You will track the discussions. Through that process, you'll find people talking about other projects. You'll experiment with other projects. Over the course of 1, 3 months, 6 months, you will become really good at the NFT space.
Yeah.
I just think you can read a lot about this space, but I feel like the real learning happens when you start to financially experiment and plug yourself into the space.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Now, you happen to have a fairly good resource that you're very close with. You might even have insider information at DCL Blogger on Twitter. I highly encourage everyone to check out Maddie's Twitter. A fantastic resource in the NFT space. But for other types of research, where should people be browsing around? What sites would you recommend? Obviously, and if you want to talk a little bit at the end here about your own project in the space, the MetaKey, feel free to let people know what's going on with that and just where they should be beginning their journeys, especially with resources.
I think Twitter is a really good space just because there's a bunch of different opinions and people have discussions that are public. YouTube is also really good. You can jump on YouTube and read the comments and sort of stuff, but YouTube format's a bit different where the creator makes a piece about their opinion and then everyone else kind of comments on that, but it's more about the creator and his opinion. Whereas I feel Twitter may be more about the discussion. So I think Twitter and plugging yourself into different personalities that maybe specialize in different areas. I, as DCL blogger, look into virtual land projects, art, game items. I love games, avatar projects. I'm experimenting with it a bit, but at the end of the day, I am just one opinion, and I will be, whether I want to or not, biased in at least a little bit into what I buy. That will be my lens. I will automatically think it's a good idea because it's how I feel. But there's many projects that will be out there that I can't cover, that just don't fall on my radar, that will do really well. So me and whoever else you find on Twitter, I would recommend follow multiple people. And on Discord, I think if you really want to get into it, jump into Discord. It's those discussions and keeping up with hundreds and hundreds of comments and discussions over many projects compounds over time. And that is, I think, invaluable over time. You just get an intuition, the training and the stuff that you get over just connecting with the right people. You might even make your own Discord with other people that you know really well that scout the market and get in touch with you and help each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Discords have been such a big wealth of information. It's really hard to keep up. It's like way overwhelming.
It's hard to keep up.
But I found that if you can almost sense in a Discord how the project's going to perform, right? If you see who's joining, you see the energy, you see the reactions to the art, you see the comments of the community, you see how hyped they are and what their energy, if they want to hold these things and they think they're long-term, or whether they're just like, okay, just pushing for little flip milestones. I felt like Discord was my biggest growth, but it's also really hard. The skill level is like expert mode in Discord,
Yeah,
whereas the skill
it
level on
is.
Twitter is like a little lower and YouTube's a little lower. But at each
It's
level
one of
you
those.
get, yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Elliot.
Go ahead.
Just to add to that, I was just saying it's one of those things where this is how I think about business, right? Or entrepreneurship in general. I feel like every time there's a hurdle or every time there's something in your mind that says, oh, that's too much effort, that's a point where thousands of other people have said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cross that path, if you cross that point, then you put yourself in ahead of those thousands of people, right? You put yourself in the top 15%, and then you cross the hurdle, you put yourself in the top 5%. It's not so much a hurdle, it's a mental kind of block that many people turn back because they're like, oh, it's too much effort. I don't want to do Discord, it's too much effort. I don't want to find my own project. I don't want to invest in something or put real money to this and make money straight away. It's just too much effort. But if you just do it, then you put yourself ahead of people. So yeah, Discord is more than Twitter, but give it a shot. That is how people make more money. You might see a random avatar project that you're part of, but then you might see Gary Vee joins the chat. And you're like, oh, holy shit, Gary Vee's here. He's probably going to talk about it on his Twitter. And then the project might blow up, right? You're not going to see that until it's too late on Twitter. You might see someone talk about, maybe the founding team might leak something, some really cool information that might be coming up, but not many people know. That makes you more confident in your buyer decision. This sort of stuff gets talked about in Discord first, then people go and share it on Twitter. That's usually how it works. So it's like the first point of information comes that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's sort of a lesson in life, right? If you go where it's difficult, I think all of crypto is difficult, right? Every single aspect, even just buying Bitcoin, right? It's easy on the Cash App, but still, you're going to have probably like 99% of people haven't done it yet. So it's one of those things where whenever you overcome those hurdles, you put yourself in a very unique place. And I think that NFT land is possibly the deepest, darkest hurdles of even more so than DeFi maybe, right? And so I guess, we've had an awesome conversation. First of all, thank you for coming on. Why don't you first, just before we get to final wrap-ups here, let us know a little bit about MetaKey. I know this is your project, maybe not your only project, but let them know a little bit about DCL Blogger, MetaKey, and everything you're working on.
Awesome. So I run DCL Blogger Twitter account quite thoroughly. I'm like always tweeting about all my knowledge and all that sort of stuff. And it's allowed me to network really well. So I founded a project called the metakey.com where you can buy a NFT called MetaKey, which is an NFT that's kind of designed by an artist. And then we, as the MetaKey team, pretty much spend the rest of our life to integrate multiple use cases for that one MetaKey. So as much as you hold that NFT, we will make sure that when you go into Decentraland, in the hundreds of games that are to come in Decentraland, the Sandbox, Insomnium Space, and Crypto Voxels, in one game it can be a sword, in another game it'll be a shield, it'll be a skin in a traditional game. We're partnering up with everyone and anyone we can think of. It might unlock some discounts or some extra data in a Web3 data providing, website. We're working on Meta Academy, which is going to be like a video database that you can unlock if you have the MetaKey. It's kind of like this one-time purchase. We're trying to push the interoperability scene. So the fact that you have this one thing and you can go across multiple games and universes and it has some sort of value. It's a fun experiment. Our Discord is really popping. So go to the MetaKey on Twitter, join the Discord. We have an NFT strategy Discord where we talk about everything about NFTs. And we have an NFT radar channel where we drop new NFT kind of posts. Every time there's a new NFT project, we do a deep dive and post it there so everyone knows what's going on. Everyone joins and is kept up and the discussion starts. So we're trying to nurture a really strong Discord community around NFTs. And we've hired a few people that will help foster sort of this conversation. And it's just a fun experiment. To me, it's kind of a way to bring my network to a project. So I'm starting a venture fund soon and I'll be investing in companies. It'll be fun to me to be like, hey, this is cool. Why don't you do something with the MetaKey as well? And my people or the people that have invested in the MetaKey or bought a key or following my space can also find value in those sort of investments and my network. So it's a way I'm tying everything together. And it's kind of been it's been a lot of fun building the project over the last 2 to 3 months.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Guys, go follow Maddie at DCL Blogger. Link is in the description. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and we hope to have you back very, very soon.
No worries, man. Thank you for having me.
Cheers. Thanks, Maddie.